at current levels is beginning to fray nerves in Canada among producers and provincial politicians. And of course, the fear is that it could fall even lower. Remember, in 2008, we saw oil get up to almost $150, and then it tanked. It dropped to under $40 by December. Well, those fears are back. Plenty of implications for the Canadian economy. We're talking foreign investment, provincial royalty revenue. Our guest is Roger McKnight, senior oil analyst with Enpro International. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
I mean, top of mind right here, Alberta budgeted oil at around $92. That's where they thought it would be.
Wrong. They budgeted at $99.25.
I'm sorry, $99.25.
Right.
So they must be worried now with oil under 80.
Well, it's actually lower than that because they're only getting about $60 a barrel.
Yeah, we should really, because of that big Western Canadian discount.
Yeah, it's called Western Canadian Select. Okay, it's discounted down to $60 a barrel. The raw bitumen is probably at $40 a barrel. So if I was the Alberta government, I'd be saying, that's what's going on here, what's going to happen. And I was an investor, if I was a Chinese investor and I put $14 billion into the oil sands, I'd be saying, excuse me, this isn't going to work out too good because we need $80 a barrel for new production. What's going to happen?
So let's break it down here. You reckon the Chinese have put how much into the oil sands?
$14 billion.
And that's, of course, their big Syncrude investment, and you name it, their partnerships with numerous companies. And their game plan was what when they bought into those companies?
They wanted a resource source. They wanted it fed back into China.
They wanted the oil, yeah.
What's happening now, without that Northern Gateway pipeline, there's nowhere for it to go. There's a very slow boat that can do that. So right now they're sitting back saying, okay, we put $14 billion in, and let's see, we're basically exporting that product to the United States. The United States is then turning around and exporting 3 million barrels a day of gasoline to Brazil and Mexico. What
do we get out of this?
What are we doing here?
What can the Chinese do? They're kind of stuck, though. It's sunk money right now, isn't it?
That's right. They have to put some pressure somehow to get that Northern Gateway open.
And your take is that Northern Gateway is going to be a nightmare to get built?
It's a nightmare already. It's an environmental landslide, if you like. There's 4,000 people want to stand up and protest against it in a formal setting. The hearings are going to take 2 years alone. And then why doesn't Stephen Harper just say, look, we are hewers of wood and drawers of water?
Some countries, they do that.
And maybe that's getting about that time.
The Trans Mountain Pipeline, of course, that's an alternative way of getting oil to the BC coast. It already carries some, but that's not going to be tricky either because there was a spill a few years ago on that pipeline, destroyed some houses. Yeah.
But the pipeline's already there. All they want to do is double the size of it.
Yeah.
Where's the problem? I mean, you want to rail car this stuff through the Rocky Mountains? I don't think so. Ludicrously
expensive and not safe.
That's right. It costs $6 a barrel to do that.
You are a long-term watcher of refining.
Yes.
And so give us a quick rundown what's happening in the refining market right now.
We had a problem in the Vancouver area. I had a number of calls where gasoline was up to $1.50 a litre, and they wanted to know why. The reason why is that gasoline prices in Canada do not recognize the 49th parallel. It doesn't exist, thanks to NAFTA and Mr. Mulroney. What happened in Vancouver area is that their prices follow what we call the Seattle rack price or wholesale price. There was a refinery in Cherry Point, 355,000 barrels a day, the largest refinery west of the Rockies.
That's in Washington State?
That's right. It went down on February the 17th. To compensate for that Oregon-Washington market shrinkage, they had to haul in product from California. Unfortunately, California has 14 refineries, and somehow 4 of them went down for what they called planned maintenance. I don't know what they were planning.
Jacked up the price, but it's a temporary thing. Vancouver shouldn't be paying these huge prices for long.
It's dropping now because some politicians in Washington got involved in the situation. Everybody sort of said, well, I guess our maintenance is all over now.
You reckon Europe is driving the show right now?
That's right. That's all we've been. I've heard on your show, not your show, various things this morning. It's driving everything. Money's going out of equities out of the country into New York to U.S. dollars. As the U.S. dollar increases in value, that drops the value of crude.
Now, as you know, the Saudis have been pumping at the highest rate in decades. You reckon they need an oil price of about $100 US. Is that a WTI price or a Brent price?
WTI price, 95 to 105. They'd be they said they'd be comfortable with that.
Pay for their social programs.
Yeah, because they threw $30 billion in just to keep everybody calm. The other side of the coin is that they'd like a lower price to really put the oil sands out of business, because they need the oil sands. They know the oil sands needs $80 a barrel minimum.
They did that apparently years ago to Venezuela. The Venezuelans started pumping in the oil sands, and Saudi shut them down by cutting the price.
Yeah, and Saudis are very mysterious people, just like myself.
So, Roger, oh, you're inscrutable. So fascinating. So Alberta's, so we got to end it, but Alberta's under pressure. They were open. They were budgeting for oil well above above $92. The Chinese are ticked off. They've sunk more than $10 billion into the oil sands, and the Saudis are worried. They need oil at $100.
It's a wonderful world, isn't it?
It never gets old. Thanks very much. Like you, Roger. And me. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
That was Roger McKnight, Senior Oil Analyst with Enpro International.